Not perfect, what I want to say. I mean, it's not polished, I don't think. I don't, but it's time. It's time to say what needs to be said. I did want to publish it, but I did not academically, but it didn't seem like at this time I didn't know of any publication that would publish it. So I probably need to look at some of the ideas, but I feel like I have come upon a hidden patterns and possibly the hidden code of language, or one of many hidden codes, if they even exist. It's definitely an intellectual system and a paradigm. Again, I'm not expecting many people in the world to understand what I'm saying here. If you understand it, that is great. I mean, if you speak more than one language, it helps to see the parallels across other languages. So there's something deeper that's going on here that is beyond a single language, beyond what it's a phenomenon that can explain many words across several languages, and I believe it points to an intuitive structure of language, a hidden organizing structure centered in the human mind. I think it's a similar idea to what Chomsky has said for grammar, but I'm not the one to decide on that. What's important is my system can explain probably hundreds of words, connect them to each other and to the speech organs, and you'll see what I mean. And let's see, maybe I should pause this for a minute. So I've written a lot about this. I can't find all the words, but basically it has to do with the word, let's say, for male, which is okay. So this, anyway, I need to make a list, and I probably need to cut part of this out. But there are many words, like in Hebrew and in English, like tell, tall, needle, tail. In Hebrew, tell, or in Arabic, tell, which is kind of a heap. There's a word tala, which means hang. There's a word ned, kones kaned mehayam. Ned is a word, not ned. There's a word dakar, which is similar to the word, in my view, dagger. Dakar means to stab, dagger. So I talk about how that connects to the tongue. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Ga. I can show images. Da is a point forward. Ga is a point upwards. In other words, okay, dot. Another word for dot is point. N, t. In Hebrew, ne, ka, d, na, ka, d. It's almost like knock. I mean, you can explain so many words. Nakad is, again, there's a point of contact. Nakad. It's almost, and where did I write it? So I write about, it could be either the tip of the tongue, the length of the tongue. Okay, so I'm just going to put it out there, and then I can find a better version and edit this. But my theory goes, looking at how language could be intuitive, and based on observation, finding patterns that influence this perspective, that align with this perspective. It remains for others to decide if this is synchronicity, a co-occurrence, or something deeper. I believe it's something deeper, and it also may connect words that are thought to be separate to each other. Apparently there are some who feel like Hebrew is a mother language. Apparently there's an author by the name of Moses, in which Professor Walter Hertzberg told me about. There seems as I did not see his work, but there's a lot more in common between Hebrew and English than you would once think. And when I say Hebrew and English, it would also mean Arabic. A side point, one thing about Hebrew, the good thing about it, for 2,000 years it wasn't touched. So, and because of the Bible, based on what I've read as well, it's more pristine. It hasn't been adulterated or watered down or changed. Change is normal for language. So there's something, a patterns here, and I will provide more and more words. But needle, nail, tall, talon, nail, snail, lizard, like I said, tell in Hebrew, ned. Then there's the word loop. In Hebrew, it's lula'a. And then male is like stab. Dakar, like zachar. The Z in Hebrew comes from a D. So for me, NDTL are a projection. GCKQ are also projections. They're upward, and I could show a picture of something I found online. So basically, it's a gesture theory and beyond. It's an imitation / gesture theory of language. It's a paradigm. It's a model. Both of what may be. It's what I see as a definitely pattern. If you want, you can call it literature, poetry. I'm sharing what I see. And for too long, I held it to myself. This is what I feel is what I'm here to do, is to put this forward to the world. It's not for me to decide. This is my joy. My highest points are when I talk about this with others. And I spent 24 years thinking about words. Professor Hertzberg, who I spoke to recently, was at the beginning of my journey, telling me that he felt that words somehow say it, and that was a part of the reason that I was like, okay, he feels that way. I respect him. Let me investigate how words may say things. So I have a model, which is based on a single letter. Oftentimes the first letter of a word, though it could be anywhere in the word. Each individual letter has its own essence, its own character, and I try to show how this may work within language. First position is important. It seems to be that's where more weight, quantitative weight, should be placed. Repetition, again, so you have to think, and this again, I've been very greatly influenced by Gesenius, who's a biblical scholar born in the 1700s. Thanks to scholarship of the Bible that transcends the Jewish religion, has allowed for great scholarship, and he has been important in, from what I've read, in shaping even possibly modern Hebrew. Apparently, people quote him, either by name or not, but apparently he is very, very important for modern Hebrew. And most of what I feel that most of what I say was influenced by him. And at some later point I can explain how. So basically, if you think of the tongue, right? So think of it, nail, right? Nail, tooth, okay? Tooth, nail. Hebrew tooth is shen. Shen. S often comes from a T, like in language. If you study languages, you see over time there's a lot of softening. NDTL, SZ, TH happen very much at the front of the tongue. So instead of thinking of different letters, this I picked up from Gesenius. This is a fact. In language, they interchange. And not what I learned is by looking at Gesenius. I learned that letters are not individual entities. They're part of. They kind of morph and shape over hundreds of years. They kind of shift from one to the other. NDTL, for me, I see them plus SZ, SZ are a class. I see them as a class of the tongue moving forward. Again, I'm not a physiology, a phonetics expert, and I feel you don't have to be. I feel like this intuitive approach to language was developed by people. The science of linguistics is new. The science of phonetics is new. Part of what I say, my theory would say that it's what people perceived the tongue to do. And you see these patterns, this possible idea of, I call priming, that a language, by the fact that it uses it, people, become aware, and once a pattern is established based on intuitive properties, propagate and kind of snowballs, meaning there are elements that individual letters carry and seem to move on. But look at this, nail, long. If you think of, it took me a long time to get this, 24 years, to see the bigger picture. But think of long, right? Tall, T, and also the shape of the letters, that's important to say. The shape of the letters, I've read online, and I don't think Gesenius explains it very well. I've read, and it really helps a lot to understand my system, that there is a correspondence between a shape of a letter and the position of the speech organs. I made up a word called tangmav, hashpap, I have, but the idea is trying to create it. And it's like the word tangmav for me means, and I've added H-U-S-H, hush, pop to it. Eventually it has to be a bridge, but the point is, it's all the combination of all sounds produced as a one word to capture that. All speech production, all sounds made by speech production, the physiology of them have motion, have symbolism, and I use the one word tangmav to refer to the whole entire speech production apparatus. And I view it not only as shapes, also as kinetics. So you have the word long and tall and leg. Hebrew leg is regel, which has the G and the L in the opposite direction. I notice flag is like leg in Hebrew too. Regel and degel are basically using a lot of the same letters. So a lot of things going on. So on one level, there is a simple shape. Then there's also the aspect of motion. There's the idea of compounding motion, like walk, the LK of walk. It's similar to the Hebrew lech. I don't know what it is in Arabic. It's probably similar. Lek, walk, walk. The tongue is kind of wiggling. Oh, the word wiggle. Flag and wiggle. There's something going on in Hebrew word gal. Gal is a wave. There's a word for a heap again, ned. So there's a word tel in Hebrew, like tall. There's a word ned that for me also represents something kind of straight. Think of the word lift, right? Think of the word, like I said, dot. So there's a lot of, these are all different words, but for me, the common denominator, and I did write it in, maybe I can pull it up and add it. They're all connected to each other through the common denominator of the tongue. Even the word, and pardon, trigger alert, if you're triggered, for the male organ, the word dick is similar to the word dakar, right? To stab, in Hebrew, Gesenius says, stab, male, the word male comes from, the idea of stabbing, but for me, again, dakar, there is actually, tongue is kind of, daka, is stabbing, can represent stabbing, or it could just, but it's kind of a very subtle gesture, miming system. So the tongue ties them all together. So you have dot, right? It's different than tall does, in a sense. You also have TL, or dot. But I feel like the tall represents the length of the tongue, or tail, nail, needle. Look at that. It's beauty, if nothing else. how does this happen? The tongue is twice, right? And it doesn't matter to me which letter first or second, and that it's different letters. It's the tongue moving forward. So on one hand, it's the length, but you can divide it otherwise. You could say sometimes, like think of the word dig versus dick. I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm just talking about words. Dig, I feel, is really you're more concerned with what's happening at the tip of the tongue. Dig is digging in. Another word, cog of a wheel. C-G, you're creating a cog. Tooth, in a way, you're also creating a t. You're creating also a point, tooth. A cog, could be a tooth, right? If you think of this ancient old clock or a watch, you had the teeth. They're cogs in a wheel. Cog. Or a male organ, other than D-I-C-K, there's C-O-C-K, which again, for me, that also fits into a pattern of a kind of protrusion, a shape that's being produced. Whether it's a cog of a wheel or a male organ, it's still a protrusion. There's the word notch. Again, notch, tooth, or notch. Or I said shen. I'm kind of jumping around, but shen was 10. So you're either, a lot is happening. You're kind of touching your tooth in English too, in Hebrew, when you say tooth. Or there be like another word, thread. Thread. You're kind of threading your tongue through the teeth, actually, with a th more than even so than the t. Or thorn. In Hebrew it's cuts, cut. Or kuts. So you have the k and the t, which again, is a thorn, or even to what is it called? To sting, right? So, but even in English, it's a different word, sting, than in Hebrew. Cuts. It's the same thing. You have the word thorn, cuts, but in a way, being bitten it's also kind of attack. So there are different aspects. Okay, I'm throwing a lot of different concepts, but the idea is all these words are interconnected, but they're connected sometimes to each other, but sometimes to the tongue as it's unifying, as how they're all connect ultimately. The tongue is, I see it as a gesturing device. It has many ways to gesture. Like when you say tooth, you may be touching the tooth, or you're representing a certain pointer. Sometimes it could be the whole length of the tooth. Sometimes, the whole length of the tongue, the whole length. Sometimes it could be what's happening at the tip, like when you say dat, or nakad in Hebrew, nakad, or dagesh. You see there's dagesh, daga, or naka. It's, if you boil them all down, basically it kind of boils things down, and it just simplifies. And I could say it collapses language upon itself. So all these hundreds of words, I believe, I didn't count, they all kind of shrink, and we're talking about basic motions, and you see patterns. It's not for me to do the scientific work of proving this. That's not my job. But it is to put it out there and let the scientists research this. It's a pattern. I think it's pretty clear if you wish to see it. Again, my job is not to convince anyone. I believe some people will see it, others won't. And I feel the best thing would be, if people put it out and there is controversy, let people research this. Let people, see, but, so the point is there's a lot of, okay, so back to the idea. So it could be, the tongue is a common denominator of all these words. Even lick, which is similar to another word with a D-I-C-K, it's a different aspect. It goes back to the tongue. Licking, I think L-C-K, or is very much, I call it onomatopoeia. And by the way, I have a whole different take on what onomatopoeia is. Again, Plato, who talks about the word onomatopoeia, does not think of onomatopoeia as sound. For him, it's much more than sound. He talks about the letter O, which means round. The letter O. He talks about glucose. Glue is gl, kind of sticky. He talks about T. D and T as having a stoppage in them. I, the letter I, is being something small. A is something large, and research has actually found that. Big language study shows that. So there's a lot here, but the point is everything goes back to the tongue. and there are patterns. So the tongue could be either digging, signaling at the tip like dot, could be at the tip touching the tooth. It could be, just signaling the dotting. It could be also in itself. After a while, I said, the tongue. For what I picked up from Gesenius, a lot of words with walking, trek, in Hebrew, darach. A lot of words of walking have the tongue. I feel the tongue. So at some point, maybe 2 years ago, I was like, you know what? Not just that the tongue is a gesturing device. The tongue itself is a leg. It was a leap for me. Is a limb. Think of the word limb, lever. The tongue is a limb. The tongue is a leg. The tongue is a tail. The tongue is, it seems often, even in other languages, like lingam, different words for the male organ, even slang words. I just Googled ding dong. All these. I feel like it's so, even the word lollipop, lol. I read, it seemed intuitive. I said, la, la, la. It's kind of the act of licking. La, la. It's not a sound. La, 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 lolly. It's kind of licking and swinging. I read that in Old English, I believe, lol meant kind of swinging, So, again, it all ties, all these words, tall, lol, like lollipop, Hebrew, the word even nod. You could think it's similar to dot, but nod. Again, you're kind of nodding, and Hebrew, the word hin hen, han, is a certain swaying. So there's different aspects, but it's all ties, all these words, to the tongue, and we look at the tongue not as multiple, kind of bring them all down, N equals D equals T equals L equals SZ. Basically, they're all one motion. Think of it, if you want to find gesture, you got to think of them, what they're doing, and also what they used to do. Like if a Z in Hebrew used to come from a D, came from a D, then you have to think of it as the same. Oh, even the word tit, or tzitz in Hebrew, or tzit. I'm sorry if people, it's a fringes. It's a thread. It's something protruding. So you could really probably, if you count the words, probably hundreds. All these words, you can think of some common, even noose. You kind of, nah, or a loop, or noose. You're kind of creating a noose, a loop, in your mouth. In Hebrew, it's the word lula'a for loop. You can also think you're kind of curving upward, to loop, to noose. Lasso, think of a lasso, so I'm presenting a model here. I read, I spent a lot of time on this, and I went to Wikipedia, and it says that our theories of language started from gesture. And now I say, what do you mean started from gesture? Here it is. What do you mean started? Gesture is here. Wake up. I think of the word knock. So sometimes it's just. So part of my theory also says there's gradations of tension. So L is the softest, up NDT, so you have L, N, D, T in that order. L is the softest, T is the harshest. You have M. I didn't talk much about the labials or bilabials, but M is the softest, P is the harshest. Sometimes these sounds, these letters, can represent not so much the length, but levels of intensity. So you have words like lull, rather than the word lull for lolly, lol. It can also represent lull as kind of L is soft, lull someone to sleep, lull. A lot of words I notice in English like mellow, mud, even blood, dam in Hebrew, Arabic, dam. Sometimes I feel, or more than feel, part of my paradigm is this is how it could work. The fluid seems, even FL for fluid, seems to, at least in the languages that I know, kind of are low pressure, not very harsh sounds, maybe because fluid is kind of flowing. Think of the word flow. It's kind of, I mean, there's so many layers here. You know, if nothing else, it's beauty. Like you can flag, you know, or fly, or in Hebrew it's af, or float. You know, I mean, there's the aspect of floating, the F, the ease, the gentle, the gentleness. You know, the water, the air. I mean, this is so rich. This is so rich. You know, if you don't, you know, it's okay if you don't appreciate it, but there's such beauty right here. I see so much beauty, such richness, and these words that we just take for granted. I thought about banana versus potato. You know, are they kind of, you know, they're very similar. Banana, patata. It's the same motions of the lips and tongue. One is harsher, one is softer. It could be the banana kind of also kind of has two protrusions. You know, there's that layer too. I mean, there's so much here, and there's so much here, and I feel even okay. More words are coming to me, like tine, like fork has tines. In Spanish, it's tenedor, you know, so again, or think of the word tendon, you know, tightness or something that kind of connects. I mean, there's so much here. There's so many words that you can really connect to the tongue, to this intuitive system. And again, you know, language is generally assumed to be random, so I'm not here to say you're not going to find. Most words shouldn't work, okay? The fact that you're seeing what I'm seeing is way beyond what anyone has ever imagined when they said the language is arbitrary. I mean, people, I think there's so much here that I think was never even contemplated. I mean, even if you have, I don't know, for statistics to work, I mean, even if it's a small percentage, that's fine. Even if it's, I don't know, was half a percent, thousandth, you know, explains 1/1000th of the words. I mean, you'll find a lot of contradictions. Okay, I will say that. But is there a pattern? You know, do you see patterns? Organizing patterns. Well, I see organizing patterns. So I'm here to share what I see, and would like, you know, to hear. I hope to create a community, online community. I feel some people may be more intuitively, you know, connected to intuition. Some people may be, or somehow more rigid or scientific in their thinking, and if something hasn't been proven, then they may not accept it, and that's fine. Actually, thinking of doing different YouTube videos. There's a YouTube actually, so I went on Reddit for etymology or something. You know, you get karma points. I don't know if you ever. I didn't know you can get negative karma. My ideas were so unpopular in, you know, in this Reddit group that I got -100. I don't know if I mentioned these ideas. I don't think they're not. They wanted to hear something that has been said before. And I think most of what I said has not been said before in the way that I say it. Definitely not been accepted. So with, you know, 100 negative karma, actually, there's plenty of good karma. So I want those who are my wavelength. I need you guys. We need each other. If we're intuitive and we see patterns and we believe the human mind, I mean, ultimately it's the human mind. I feel that the intelligence given to us, you know, it's the organizing principle of language. We're not a blank slate. Our brains are highly sophisticated, way more than we give them credit. Language is a collaborative. I see it as a collaborative. I don't think there was a committee. You know, I had someone ask me, there's a committee in the U.S. that makes up words. Some countries have committees that decide what's the pure language, whatever the local language is. There's no committee. People are the curators of language. And it's a democratic marketplace. If people like it, they keep it. If they don't like it, they chuck it. So you could apply a certain theory of fitness, of selection to language, that people select. Language lives because people choose to utilize it. Language also changes. Language lives because people give it life, because people use these words. I know I was told to do short videos. This is not a short video. I'm saying a lot of different things. I can, I have to start somewhere. And so this is where I'm starting. I've avoided for a long time. About a year ago or so, I put up some videos, and first I was worried people might, what people might say or not say, but then, like I saw a blogger or a vlogger, a successful vlogger say, you may be worried about what people say, but no one cares. So, but it kind of bothered me. I didn't get a single like, So this is not about, right now I'm doing this because this is what I'm supposed to do, I believe. This is what I need to do. Whether I have 1 followers, I'm hoping to have 100,000 followers at least. I think with 1 billion speakers of English and other languages, and again, if you speak 2 languages, Arabic, Hebrew, English, Latin, I think this could be invaluable, because there's so much that ties so many words together. It's a great tool for learning new words and learning new languages. There's so much here, and I didn't mention the various aspects. There's also the idea of I'm kind of going back to theory. This idea what I call self-reference, like the word tongue or lick, or saliva. There's another aspect which I didn't talk about today here, which is simply the tongue referring to itself, or the lips referring to themselves. So I'm just, there's a lot here, there are many layers. So a lot of different words, but they all kind of collapse onto themselves. They all kind of, if you want to see gesture, you can see it. Like I said, in Wikipedia it said that there was a theory language initially was gesture. Okay. I say here it is, it's about thinking how gesture would work. That's kind of what I've been doing for the past 24 years. Years ago I started with the word leash and lash, like a lash or eyelash, eyelid, lock, latch. I don't know if I'm repeating myself. Long. There's patterns. Sometimes it's all there, and you need someone to wake you up and say, look, there's order. It's kind of taking a view of 10,000 feet away and say, look, there are patterns here. You just say all these words, but look, there are patterns. Look at these patterns. So this is an organizing principle. Is this a formula like E equals MC square? Is this brilliant? Is this one person just imagining things? You decide. Put it out there. I believe we'll have 100,000 followers, easy, subscribers. This should go across the world. I think the ideas should go across the world, should be debated, should be appreciated, should be evaluated. Is this useful? Is this useful? I can say it's useful to me. It's useful for a tool for even memorizing names. I can feel okay. It's like something happening at the tip. There's something happening. I feel like there's so much more teeth, so to speak, when I learn a new word or a name. There's so much more to hang on, to the sounds now that I have this whole system. Like Natalie, I feel it's all happening at the tip. Natalie or Karen. Oh, I didn't even talk about Karen and Snake. Like Karen. There's so much here. So much here. And my fear for a long time was, what if I die and I never put out my work? So time is to put out my work as a side. I'm having hopefully I'll live till my ripe 80 years. But I'm having some. I probably need a ablation procedure in my heart. I was in the ER for around about a day with a heart rate that wasn't being managed by medication. They wanted to do a shock. Eventually I came back to normal rhythm, but I was having what's called atrial flutter of 134 beats per minute for probably around 8 hours. So life is uncertain, but I feel like I'm doing what I'm here to do. I do want to create a community of intuitive people, could enjoy this. I need you guys. I want to thank my colleagues, Dr. Hertzberg in Israel, and my editors and artists in Egypt. I really appreciate Moheb, who appreciates my work and the ideas, and says that he feels that this is the mother tongue. This gives me lots of joy that people can see it. Even one person, one person, two people, I don't need more than that. I feel like my job is to put it out there and let the world do with it what it may. But all those who are helping putting this forward, the artists, video editors, those who are excited about this, those who are helping me organize the work into a scholarly publication, those who are just enjoying it. That gives me joy. That's my job. Sign up, subscribe, like. If you like it, forward it. If you don't like it, forward it. Complain about it. Dislike it. Send it out. They say controversy is good. This will for sure be controversial. For a while I was thinking of using the idea genital theory. Saying the tongue could be a limb. It seems a lot of words for the male organ uses the tongue. So I was like, okay, the tongue is a tail, is a limb, is a foot, is a male organ. I'm not looking, for fame for myself, but I want the idea to kind of awaken people. Zap, shock, use an image like Moheb is helping me with a snake, or banana. The tongue is a banana, the tongue is a tail, the tongue is, you name it, the tongue is alive. That's the thing. All my ideas here could be restructured and reorganized. I see language as 3D. Words are not just sounds, okay? Each word is kinetic. I was just thinking today of the word spasm. So I feel like S is kind of medium. P, it kind of spikes up. Even the word spike, it kind of goes sp. So it's kind of like this. It starts with a line, it goes up, and then back down, spasm. Or even what I didn't talk about is the word spike. So another piece is the P can work like a K. So spy, or spoke of a wheel, or even peg, a peg, or the word peak. There's so much here. Are you excited? There's so much here. Just look, have fun. People have all kinds of word games. It could be a game, just have fun with words. Look at these connections. Spoke versus spank, So I feel like spank is more like this idea of what I call plosives, the harsh sounds. Spank versus spoke or spike. It's all gesture. Language is alive. That's the point. Language is alive. There's so much happening right here. There's so much happening right here, under our noses. We don't notice. No one notices. There's so much going on. Like I said, Wikipedia says language may have been at some point in theory gesture. Here it is. Gesture's here. And it's here to stay. If you put this out there, if you spread, forward these videos, these ideas can live on and give so much, I feel. Tell me what you feel. These words can give you so much appreciation. Free joy. It doesn't cost any money. Fun with your brain if it's on your wavelength. There's so much here. In any language you speak, there's so much here. I mean, aside, like this idea of what I call self-referential. Think of the word saliva. Saliva does not make sound. Saliva. I mean, there's the word spit, which is a different aspect. It's kind of the, the idea of things kind of being, or the word pee or poop. There's the idea of the plosives. The pa, or ka. Like to throw up. I think even in Arabic, Hebrew, ka. Again, it's a plosive. Whether it's puke, the P and the K of puke, or the ka of, or the p of pee, or the k. In other languages have the ka for poop. It's like pee or poop or ka. It's the same thing. It's a plosive, something being projected out. You pop someone, right? There's the word pop. It could be full of air, pop. Or you can have the P is something, there's so much here, I have to start somewhere, so I'm starting here. It's been a while since I posted something on YouTube. This needs to be edited and organized, and I could redo it, take this up and break it down to different pieces, which I would like to do. But here's a start. Okay, it's a long video. Initially, I was like, do 5 minutes. That's all people can handle. I'm sending this to people who are working on my work, who are, have been introduced to it. There are equations, that I have, which I can talk about in other videos. So there's a lot here. I hope you can enjoy this. I hope you can spread it out, because language is so rich. Oh, saliva. Back to saliva. I think saliva is mostly the S and L. For me, that's kind of the essence of saliva. It's what I call self-referential saliva, or lick. It's not so much a sound, and there's sound too. It's not a contradiction. You have sound, but you're kind of looking. Look, it's the tongue. Or swallow. I feel like the L of swallow, in Hebrew it's bala. That's the essence. The tongue, I call self-referential. The tongue is referring to its own action, in a sense. Swallow, bala. I was saying in Hebrew, Arabic, bala. I feel it starts at the lips, then goes to the tongue, and then it's and there's an ayin, bala. Versus palat in Hebrew, to expel, palat. Bala, So there's so much here, no matter what language you speak. There might be some languages that work less, but European languages, Semitic languages, it works. Asian languages, I'm not sure. Though Tagalog, which they speak in the Philippines, I find patterns that work. By the way, in Ugandan, there's a word ololimi for tongue. A lot of languages, the tongue, many languages for tongue use exclusively tongue letters. It's not a sound. The tongue, they use tongue letters to say tongue. No matter what the letter is, they're not using labial, lips, to say tongue. There's a hidden structure. Just let's open our eyes and appreciate what's here. It's getting dark, that's why it's getting, you can't see me as well. It's been 44 minutes. The editors, you can edit, add images. But this is a start of something exciting. And Moheb, I'll start putting images out. We could do different tests. Like put this image out, that image out, the banana with Freud. We could just play with this. I mean, it's not like a book cover, magazine cover that never changes. We can play and adapt and see what gets more traction and feedback. Okay, so this is for you guys. Thank you. Let's do more.